Welcome back. It's day 3 in our factoring unit. In today's lesson, you will learn how to find the sum and difference of polynomials, which just means we're just going to add and subtract polynomials. All right, let's go. Oh yeah, it's that time again. We have some math problems here and we need you to do them now. Pause the video, complete the problems, and return to the video when you're done. All right, let's go over the do now. Consider the polynomial expression 5x plus 7 minus 4x squared. All right, part A. Write the expression in standard form. So standard form will just mean that it needs to start out with the largest degree and go decreasing order. So we're going to go with the negative 4x squared. Then we'll go with 5x and plus 7. All right, we're done with that one. Part B, write the degree of the polynomial. So the degree of the polynomial is based off of whatever your largest degree is. So this one would be degree 2. Degree is equal to 2. All right, classify the polynomial by the number of terms. Pretty simple here. So this is my first term, second term, and third term. So we have 3 terms. That just means that this is called a trinomial. All right. And classify the polynomial by the function family. So remember that when we're dealing with a degree 2 polynomial, that means it's going to be a quadratic. And as we learn more about the math here, we'll know what that looks like in a graph. But that's about it. All right, so it looks like we're going to be finding the sum of these polynomials. So it looks like we have 2 trinomials here. I'm going to show you 2 different methods. One's the vertical method, one's the horizontal method. I kind of like the vertical method because it keeps everything lined up and neat. But later on, eventually, you just kind of start using the horizontal method if I'm just going to do mental math. But for right now, let's use the vertical method. So we're going to take each one of our terms. So we got x squared, subtract 4x plus 3. And then I'll take my other terms. We're going to add those in there. So we're going to go with plus 3x squared, subtract 3x, and a subtract 5. All right, so this is the vertical method. Just line up your terms. Sometimes when you're doing these problems, you will be missing a term, so there'll be a missing spot in there. But otherwise, just line up the degrees of your polynomials and you should be good. So let's add with the first one. So 1x squared plus 3x squared would just be, let me go back and fix that real quick. Should be 4x squared. Negative 4x added with a negative 3x should just be negative 7x. And then a positive 3 subtract 5 should just be negative 2. And that's my method. So that's the vertical method. I like that one. You line up your terms real quick, and then it's pretty quick and simple. The horizontal method, kind of the same thing, but we can write these together. This may be a little bit easier for some people to see, and eventually I just go with a little bit of mental math and start doing these as I go, but depends how we go. So again, we can regroup some of these. So we can go with like x squared, and then so that means x squared. I'll find the same term. There's a 3x squared, so then I'll add a 3x squared. So we'll figure out what those are. Then I'll look at some other terms here. So now we got that one. So now let's take the negative 4x and then negative 3x. So I'm going to add those together. Let me do those. So I have a negative 4x, subtract a 3x. All right. And then lastly, what else do we have in this problem? We also have a positive 3 and a negative 5. So I'm going to take those ones together. So the 3, subtract 5, and there we go. So that would be the horizontal method. And now we're still doing the same thing we did in the vertical method, but we're not stacked up. We just have to rearrange them and write them next to each other. So my answer for this problem should be, well, this is just 4x squared. This is just negative 7x. And this one over here would just be negative 2. So again, we're going to get the same answer. Nothing's different. Just the method of how we did the problem. So again, depending on what you like, again, sometimes I like the vertical method, sometimes I like the horizontal method. But eventually I started using the horizontal method and just do mental math, so I don't have to write everything down. All right, well, thank you. Right, this time we're going to find the difference of two polynomials. Now, difference is subtraction, and for some reason, subtraction just beats up on people. I don't know why. So let's try to write this one out. We're going to use the vertical method first. So x squared subtract 4x plus 3. And now we're going to subtract. So I'm going to make that red so I remember I'm subtracting now. That's where my problems are going to become, is because of that subtraction sign. And I'm going to write all of these out again. So I'm going to go with 3x squared subtract 3x subtract 5. Okay, perfect. So now, remember, I like having this tablet so I can actually have two different colors. I can change my colors real easily. If you don't, then use a pen and a pencil or a color pen or highlighter, just to kind of remember that you have to deal with that negative. So that negative is just going to switch the signs of every single term in the parenthesis. So this positive 3x squared is going to become a negative 3. And I usually just do that. I put a little negative sign. I'm going to get rid of this so that way that's gone. That means this negative 3x will become, well, the opposite of negative 3 is positive. So now it's a positive. And this negative 5 will now become a positive 5. So that's usually what I do when I'm doing these problems. I'll leave a little space. So when I do the subtraction, I'm going to just change every single sign in the parenthesis. And now we should be able to do this problem just like an addition problem. So this should be x squared subtract 3x squared, which is negative 2x squared. We have negative 4x plus 3x would be negative 1x. And then last, that's just going to be 8. Perfect. And that's it. So just like we did our addition, just like we found the sum earlier, this one's the same exact thing. The horizontal method, let's try it that way. So I'm going to go with an x squared. And we are subtracting something. And now let's look over there. What are we subtracting in this problem? We are subtracting a 3x squared. Okay, not too bad there. Let's see what's next. Now we have a negative 4x. And we are going to subtract. And again, I like having the color. So now I'm subtracting, especially right now. What are we going to be subtracting? We are going to be subtracting a negative 3x. Now that's where most of our issues come, right there. We're subtracting a negative 3x. And the last part, let's see what we got here. We have a 3, and we are subtracting. What are we subtracting right now? We are subtracting a negative 5. Okay. So there's my math problem. Now, as you can see, like, it gets kind of confusing to see what the heck are we adding, what are we subtracting. I do like the vertical method a lot for this, or you start doing mental math and you start kind of just doing a lot of this in your head. But so we're going to go with this first one is negative 2x squared. Over here, the two negatives together, that's going to change to a positive. I like to just do a big plus sign. So now I have negative 4x plus 3x, which is just negative 1x. And lastly, we're going to have to do a big plus sign over there too. We have two negatives in a row, so negative times negative is a positive. So we got 3 plus 5. So as you can see, I see where a lot of mistakes will happen is just what was my sign in not being neat. So again, this is the neatest I could write on my tablet, but with pencil and paper, I can make it a lot neater. But hopefully one of these methods is a little bit easier for you. Just remember, when you have a subtraction, you're going to switch the sign of every single term inside of that parenthesis. So it's when you distribute this through, every single one of these terms will change to the opposite sign of what it was before. Okay? So again, as you get good at it, use the mental math and just start doing that mentally. So that was a nice short lesson on adding and subtracting polynomials. As you can see, there was not too much going on. I have 4 problems for you to try as classwork. I will have the solutions posted in another video. Thanks again for watching day 3 of my factoring unit. Take care.